Today I'm going to share the 3 phases of eating for SIBO, so stay tuned. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Amanda Malicheski. I'm a certified functional nutrition gut health coach, and I'm also the host of the Calm Digestion Method online program where I support people with IBS and SIBO to find their personalized IBS relief plan. For weekly videos on how to find your personalized IBS and SIBO relief plan, please consider subscribing and be sure and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video. So today I want to talk about a framework for eating during the different phases of SIBO management and treatment so that I can hopefully cut through some of the confusion a lot of you are having about what the heck should I eat and when's the right time to eat different things. So if you don't know me yet, I'm in the trenches every single day with IBS and SIBO patients, helping them figure out what to do about this kind of challenge and how to solve this problem. So I'd like to help you solve it as well, so let's dig into this just a little bit. By now you probably know that there's a lot of conflicting information about what's the right way to eat for IBS and SIBO, and this can get really confusing for you, understandably. But the truth is that each person with SIBO and IBS is unique, and the specific diet that's going to really help you is going to be personalized and individualized. So how do you then apply the different dietary theories, food lists, and pieces of advice to get where you'd like to go? Well, the first thing I think it's important to understand is the role that food plays in SIBO treatment. Since SIBO is an overgrowth of bacteria in your small intestine, changing your diet alone is unlikely to cure your SIBO and leave you without SIBO. You usually have to do other things. The true purpose of changing your diet during SIBO treatment is to figure out specifically which foods are triggering your symptoms and making you feel horrible, and then removing those foods to reduce your symptoms so that you have a better quality of life while you're working on figuring out the root causes of your SIBO and dealing with that. So for starters, this is how I like to think about it. It's a change that you're making to minimize your symptoms and feel better while you focus on the real problem, which is the SIBO. Beyond this, I see that there are 3 phases of eating for SIBO, and there's different strategies for each phase. So this is what I really want to dig into. So let's get started with phase number 1. The first phase of eating for SIBO is what I think of as the pre-treatment phase. And this is the time when most people naturally are having digestive symptoms and trying to change their diet to improve things. It's naturally the first thing that people want to do. And people in this phase often don't even know that they have SIBO yet. They just know that they're having symptoms and they want to feel better. And this is where most of us get really lost in the advice about the different diets. Like, should I use the FODMAP diet or the low histamine diet or the keto diet or the biphasic diet or whatever diet you have learned about in your research? So the key question that you really want to answer in this phase of the project is, what is the underlying mechanism of my food symptoms? In other words, how are my food symptoms happening? And what I've seen in practice is that this is most commonly fermentable carbohydrates for people with IBS and SIBO. So this is like the FODMAP diet removes foods that have fermentable carbohydrates in them. The second most common thing I see are histamine foods. So this is another possibility. The third most common is oxalates, though that trails pretty far behind the fermentable carbs and the histamines. Each of these diets are huge topics in themselves, and I do have several videos about all of them elsewhere on my channel, so if you need more info on that, go check that out. But the purpose of this first phase where you're changing your diet is to do the best you can to figure out how your food symptoms are happening and to remove the specific foods that are causing the problem so that you can get a little symptom relief while you're doing the rest of the process. Okay, phase 2 is eating properly during your SIBO treatment. Now, I just made a video about this last week where I discussed this really in depth, but I'll summarize the key points for you here. Generally, I advise eating the diet that most minimizes your symptoms during SIBO treatment. I know that there's a lot of advice that contradicts this and says you should feed the bacteria during treatment so that you have a better outcome. I disagree. I think that increasing your symptoms during treatment is just likely to make you give up on treatment and maybe even fail treatment, and just makes the treatment have to work that much harder. In addition, I don't like to see people changing more than one thing at once. So I don't like to see people adding their SIBO treatment and changing their diet at the same moment, because This means that we can't tell which of those changes is responsible for the symptom changes that we're going to see. So again, during SIBO treatment, you're going to stick with whatever diet you figured out in phase 1 or whatever diet you're currently eating, and you're going to do your SIBO treatment. Okay, and now after you've finished your SIBO treatment, and this is key, you've confirmed with testing that you are SIBO negative, the third phase of eating for SIBO is reintroducing foods that you may have removed previously to see if your tolerance has changed. This is the moment to reintroduce those foods you had to take out that were your personal kryptonite to see if you can tolerate them now, because wouldn't that be grand if you could get back to eating a normal diet again? Successful SIBO treatment doesn't always remove food intolerances, but in many cases it does, or at least minimizes them or reduces them. In my personal case, once I successfully treated my SIBO, I was able to reintroduce gluten-free bread, gluten-free treats, chocolate, beans, FODMAP foods. I generally can eat a wide variety of foods, even if I can't necessarily tolerate eating beans every single day. And then my client Daryl, once he finished his SIBO treatment, was able to go back to eating ice cream and just an ordinary diet, and he was super thrilled. So again, phase 3, reintroduce foods that you previously had to eliminate to see if your tolerance has changed. So to summarize, think of it like this. Minimize your symptoms as best you can before treatment by making diet changes. During treatment, continue eating that diet you figured worked best for you, or just continue eating what you've normally been eating. And after you've confirmed that SIBO is gone, then you can try doing food reintroductions to see if your tolerances have changed. Now, are you needing help figuring out what you should be eating during your phases of SIBO management? You can do this very easily by using my Calm Digestion Method that I teach inside my Calm Digestion Method program. And you can get started with that right now just by grabbing a free copy of my Roadmap to Gut Recovery. You can get a hold of that by going to confluencenutrition.com/roadmap. I'll leave a link for that on the screen here and also in the description below this video. All right, let me know if this video was helpful for you by clicking like, leaving me a comment, subscribing, or leaving me a question if you have one. I'm happy to answer. And you next might want to check out this video, How to Eat for IBS Without Going Crazy. I've linked it here on the screen for you, and I will see you next time.